Hello and welcome to the video. Today is an exciting day. RadioMaster have just released their latest lineup of ExpressLRS receivers, specifically aimed at those of us that don't always use a flight controller, so perfect for things like boats, planes, wings, but also gliders. So some of the new stuff has variometers in, so you can get readings of your height and changes in height on your radio easily. Now, RadioMaster have been heavily involved in the ExpressLRS project. They're one of the few hardware manufacturers that are. And that makes me very happy when I see new receivers, because I know that the developers have probably got their hands on them and there has been a bit of collaboration and the stuff's gonna work. And RadioMaster seem to try and follow the hardware specifications as best as they can. But there's some extra stuff in these receivers that I'm getting really excited about. Because RadioMaster have also tried to produce some FreeSky compatible stuff in the past, and with FreeSky being incredibly litigious, allegedly, they seem to have stopped doing all that, so they kind of doubled down on the ExpressLRS stuff. But there's been a couple of things missing out of ExpressLRS receivers that RadioMaster seem to be determined to fix. So I'm going to go through all of these receivers in turn and show you them. There's 7 to look at in this video. But time goes down below if you want to kind of jump around. But there's a couple of common things that are worthwhile talking about before we get into the weeds. Now, the receivers that have been released today, there's a single 4-channel receiver, there are 3 6-channel receivers, and there are 6 8-channel receivers. This is one of the 8-channel receivers. This is designed for a glider, and it is called an ER8GV. The kind of clues in the name. It's an ExpressLRS receiver, ER, then 8 tells you how many channels there are, and then GV show you it's for a glider, and it has the variometer. All this will become a lot clearer. Normal, you can connect to this via Wi-Fi or any of the other ways that you would with a common ExpressLRS receiver. And you can reassign channel 5. At the moment, with the version that's shipping in this, the channel 5 having to be in a high position to turn all the goodness on with ExpressLRS is still there, and that's due to ExpressLRS's kind of multi-rotor flight controller origins. Hopefully that will go away soon. But you can just reassign everything, and I would recommend that you do that whenever you're doing this, but assign channel 5 to go high when you turn on something like your throttle cut switch, which would be the way that I would do it. A lot of these new receivers as well have voltage monitoring for your flight battery, so you can get that voltage down to your radio so you can monitor it. The ER4, ER6G, ER6G GV, and the ER8G and ER8GV, which is this one here, have it as well for just a single wire. So you just connect that single wire into the positive terminal of the battery somewhere, maybe the back of the XT60 connector inside the model, or even onto a balance tap. Something like that would work fine. It does mean that you may have to do a bit of soldering on some of them. With some of them it's just a plug-in piece, as I'll see in a minute. With others it's just a pad. And the last one, which is the thing that I am getting really excited about with this, is on the ER6, ER8, ER8G and ER8GV, there is a port, a UART, essentially, the kind of thing that you normally see on a flight controller. And that is there so that you can connect external sensors. Things like current and voltage sensors, things like GPS, and those are planned to be coming from RadioMaster in the future. Why am I excited about that? Well, that's kind of the stuff that we used to play with back when we all flew FreeSky and we used SmartPort, and SmartPort is still a go-to connection for telemetry protocols. I would love to have an open source alternative to SmartPort, and if that port is going to become that, that's going to make me very happy, because it means then that the SmartPort stuff that FreeSky does seem to be very litigious about protecting doesn't matter anymore, because we'll have an open standard alternative. So let me jump on the bench and go through these really quickly so you can see what the differences are. First one we'll look at is the ER4. This will run from 4.5 to 8.4 volts. So this is really a 1 to 2S pack, although you could run it on 5 volts if you really needed to. It has a single antenna. It's ExpressLRS 3.2 pre-installed, has 4 PWM channel outputs. Telemetry power is only 10 milliwatts, and the battery voltage detection range is 4 to 35 volts for the main flight battery that you can connect up to. Weight is a teeny weeny 3 grams, and it's 30 by 15 by 5 millimeters. This is a perfect little receiver if you have small boats and cars and things like F3P gliders, those kind of things where 4 channels is more than enough for what you need. Next range to talk about then are the 6-channel receivers. There's 3 in this family, the ER6, the ER6G for glider, and ER6GV, which is for glider with a variometer. Let's look at each of these in turn. The ER6 looks like a pretty traditional receiver. It's the kind of box style. Again, runs on DC 4.5 to 8.4 volts. Antenna types is dual antenna, so there is diversity here. It is ExpressLRS 3.2 pre-installed, 6 PWM channels. Telemetry power is a maximum of 100 milliwatts, lure adjustable, and the telemetry battery voltage detection range is 4 to 35 volts again. Bus interface is CRSF, and the weight is 15.2 grams. It's 43 by 25 by 15 millimeters. This is going to be a great general purpose receiver if you have things like model aircraft or general use. Maybe you have something like a car or a truck where you need additional controls for things like light and smoke functions. The next one then is where we get into some funky stuff. The ER6G, G being for glider. The power supply on this, it'll run on a much lower voltage. It'll run from 3.5 to 8.4 volts. So that means that you can definitely run this on a 1S pack if that's all you've got inside your glider. ExpressLRS 3.2 pre-installed. Has 6-channel PWM outputs. The return power is 50 milliwatts maximum, again lure adjustable. The battery voltage detection range is 4 to 35 volts. Weight is only 5 grams. Dimensions 42 by 13 by 8 millimeters. This is really designed for small to medium DLGs and electric gliders, and also is going to be very handy for those of you that fly those kind of things in competition use where vario sensors are prohibited. Last one in the family then is the ER6GV. This again will run from 3.5 to 8.4 volts, making it perfect for the low voltage systems, typically in gliders. And again, ExpressLRS 3.2 has 6 channels on the output, maximum of 100 milliwatts for the telemetry, and has a built-in air pressure sensor that will give you vario telemetry back to your radio. Battery voltage detection range again is 4 to 35 volts. Weight and size are similar to the ER6G, so it's about 5 grams and 42 by 13 by 8 millimeters. Then we're into the bigger family, the 8 PWM output family. There's an ER8, ER8G, and an ER8GV. So the ER8 is the first one we'll have a look at. Again, a more traditional box style receiver. It will run DC 4.5 to 8.4 volts. Again, ExpressLRS 3.2 on here. 8 channel PWM outputs all at the end. Telemetry power maximum of 100 milliwatts, which is lure adjustable. Same battery voltage detection range, 4 to 35 volts. And the bus interface on here, the back of this, is CRSF. Weighs a little bit more, about 17.5 grams, and the size is 43 by 30 by 15 millimeters. So a very, very nice compact ExpressLRS receiver for general use. You can use this in pretty much whatever you want if you have space. However, the other two, again, are really designed for gliders. The ER8G is the small, thin, elongated version with connectors at either end, which makes it perfect to sneak inside the very thin, small bodies of medium to large gliders. ExpressLRS 3.2, it can run from 3.5 to 8.4 volts, maximum of 100 milliwatts range, and again has the port on the side for CRSF that you could then use for those additional sensors that are potentially coming in the future. You do have to cut through the heat shrink on the side, and you're probably going to do that as well if you wanted to get to the external voltage pin, which is here on the top. Last one then is a really impressive one for glider pilots. This is really for those medium to large gliders where variometers are needed or desired. So this again will run at 3.5 to 8.4 volts. It's running ExpressLRS 3.2, maximum of 100 milliwatts telemetry output, has a built-in variometer, and again detection ranges for the battery voltage sensing is 4 to 35. Weight is about 10.5 grams, and the dimensions are the same as its brother, which is 60 by 13.5 by 13 millimeters. So what does it look like on the PC? Well, standard stuff. If you power it on and you leave it for 60 seconds, it will default into Wi-Fi mode. And then you can jump onto your PC and then have a look for that Wi-Fi connection. So ExpressLRS receiver and connect. There isn't any password or anything on the ones that I have here. And then once you're connected, your browser will start and we can have a quick look around at how everything is configured. This just happens to be the ER8GV that we're looking at right now. So we can see here that it's firmware version 3.2.1. There's no binding phrase set by default. It'll time out at 60 seconds for the Wi-Fi stuff, which is by default, and the UART board is set. That's the UART, that CRSF stuff on the side that can be used for external telemetry. Wi-Fi can be set up here as well. You can join it to your home network if you really want to. Then we have the model stuff where you can either do the model match, but also crucially, this is where you'd come to set up how all the PWM stuff is mapped. So you can decide which channels are going to which pins. I would absolutely get rid of channel 5 and I would assign channel 6, 7, 8 and 9 to these 9 outputs, remembering to set channel 5 to go high when you turn off your throttle cut or however you have it set up. Also setting here things like the failsafe and whether or not the output is inverted. So this is going to be a handy screen for those of you that do a lot with PWM. And then the last tab is to do the update, where you can load up the update file and then click the update button and it will work. So no surprises here at all. It all works and it all works really nicely. Sometimes with some of the Wi-Fi stuff that I've played with here with ExpressLRS, it's a bit clunky. This seems to work really well. What's it like to bind to? Well, let's power on the radio and go through the process and I'll show you how easy it is to bind with this stuff. Interestingly, when they're powering up into bind mode, so that makes it really easy. So I've got my external receiver or transmitter here in the radio set for CRSF. It's the RadioMaster Mini CRSF module in here in the back, running 3.0 I think it is. So we're going to go through and we'll bind. So with the Ranger micro in the back, we'll select bind and we'll get ready to hit that. Then we're going to power the receiver, and that will then, once it's booted, you'll see it'll then start double flash. There we go, straight into bind mode. So I'll just click bind on the radio, and when it binds up, which is really quick, then you kind of get the steady kind of purple light, and we are in a great place. Now, what we can do is come out of this part of the menu, and we can go across into the telemetry options. And if we go down and we discover new sensors, there they are. Well, the top 4 are kind of things that you would have normally, but then we have all this extra stuff like the transmission power, we have the quality, but we have altitude, vertical speed, receiver battery current, and battery voltages as well. So this is all the stuff that we're getting extra out of the receivers, thanks to the fact that this is a pretty smart ExpressLRS receiver. And obviously if we then attached other things to it, things like a GPS or a battery or current sensor, we'd get that extra stuff through too. So it definitely feels like RadioMaster are doubling or tripling down on the ExpressLRS system, and that makes me very happy. The receivers seem to be really nice, solid quality, and it's great to see those of us that need more PWM options getting not 1, not 2, not even 3, but 7 different options that are launched today. And also, crucially, if you're a glider pilot, they've even thought of that too. And for some of the builds that I do here, having those long, thin receivers with the connections at each end will give me options of where I can place the receiver, which you couldn't get away with some of the larger, boxier, classic-looking ones. I'm excited to see what happens now. We're starting to get these kind of receivers that have this extra data, maybe improved Lua scripts designed specifically for glider pilots with the kind of telemetry you get back from this to give you information, so the variometer is displayed and maybe you get height graph and all that stuff. Those kind of things are kicking around already, but I'm excited to see how much innovation there's going to be on that front in the coming months now that this stuff is out. For me, One of the most interesting things is that extra UART that's been added to the ER6, ER8, ER8G and ER8GV, which allows you to add those additional sensors on. Does that mean then we could actually have an open source telemetry option to come back to ExpressLRS receivers, to then come back to the radio if we're not using CRSF for radio control? That would kind of be exciting, because that means for lots of pilots like me who are still using legacy FreeSky stuff in a lot of that kit, we can finally rip those receivers out and replace them with ExpressLRS. So hopefully that's been interesting for those of you that have seen this stuff come out today. That's a brief rundown of what's available and what's different about them all. Thank you for watching the video. If you watch my videos and find them useful, then please take a moment to hit the like and subscribe button. It helps the channel a lot. If you really like what I'm doing here, you can become a Patreon and support the time I spend helping others and get access to lots of exclusive benefits. Link is in the video description. Remember that all the videos on the channel are organized into playlists, so you can easily use those playlists to find all the videos on a subject that you are interested in. Add Painless 360 to your searches on Google and YouTube, and it'll help you find my content for any particular topic. Thanks again for watching, and as always, happy flying.